Hi there, it's Vanessa from Cove, and you're listening to the 83rd edition of The Networker. This week's edition kept returning to a question that sounds simple but isn't. What does it actually take to be known? Not famous, not viral, just genuinely known, trusted, and connected in ways that hold weight when it matters. The answers came from some very different directions, and they added up to something worth paying attention to. So let's dive in. We open with a piece from the Cove blog on LinkedIn, and I want to flag this one because it's easy to skim past. The argument is direct. Most executives are using LinkedIn as a digital archive. Career history, endorsements, the occasional connection request. That's not a strategy. It's a missed opportunity. Research involving around 20 million LinkedIn users found that weak ties, the casual acquaintances outside your inner circle, are better on average for career mobility than strong ones. Your closest contacts move in the same circles as you do. The outer ring is where new markets, board seats, and partnerships actually come from. LinkedIn used well is how you extend your reach into that ring and give people a reason to pull you into conversations you'd otherwise never hear about. Now, from Fast Company, a piece that should land differently for anyone who manages people. A meta-analysis drawing on 515 studies and data from nearly 800,000 workers found that the biggest driver of workplace stress isn't overload or competing priorities. It's ambiguity around roles. When expectations are unclear, the cognitive and emotional toll compounds in ways that workload management alone can't fix. The finding is uncomfortable because the solution sits entirely with leadership. You can't delegate your way out of unclear expectations. Inc. magazine brings a sharper version of a theme we've returned to before. At a growth stage founder dinner in Dubai, every founder exchanged cards and LinkedIn connections before dessert. 6 months later, two were still in touch. One had secured a distribution partner, a regulatory shortcut, and an investor introduction, all from a single relationship formed that evening. The difference wasn't effort, it was trust. The piece makes the case that early-stage entrepreneurs optimize for contacts when they should be building the kind of credibility that gets doors opened on their behalf. Moving on, the New York Post takes that hiring frustration and gives it a practical frame. LinkedIn, for small business owners in particular, has become a content farm with a resume tab. Easy apply bots flood postings. Ghosting is rampant. 52% of employers say their biggest challenge isn't a shortage of candidates. It's a shortage of quality ones. The alternative is proactive. Niche job boards, community Slack channels, structured employee referral programs, and direct outreach to passive candidates who aren't actively looking but might move for the right opportunity. Next, Quartz gives us a data-rich look at early career geography. Wallet Hub scored 182 U.S. cities across 25 metrics and found that where you start your career creates structural advantages or disadvantages that compound over time. Atlanta, Orlando, and Austin top the rankings for entry-level job density, cost-adjusted salary, and livability. New York ranked last in professional opportunities for new entrants, with available positions spread across a labor pool too large to absorb them. The implication isn't that talented people can't succeed in hard markets. It's that the city itself is either working for you or quietly adding friction you may not even be accounting for. We close the articles with a piece from Nature, which isn't where most people go for networking advice, but stick with it. Academic careers coach Caroline Dunn writes a step-by-step guide for people who dread conference networking. The reframe she offers is worth keeping. You don't need to work the room. One genuine conversation is enough. Prepare in advance, set a small achievable goal, arrive early, look for someone standing alone, and think of yourself as a host rather than a guest trying to fit in. The system is simple. The shift in how the whole thing feels is significant. Before we wrap up, let's turn to this week's recommendations. Our book of the week is The Go-Giver by Bob Berg and John David Mann. It's a business parable that follows an ambitious young professional who discovers that the relentless pursuit of getting is self-defeating. Through 5 mentors and 5 laws of stratospheric success, the book makes a counterintuitive argument that holds up to scrutiny. Shifting focus from what you can acquire to what you can contribute doesn't diminish professional outcomes. It multiplies them. It's a quick read, and it's the kind of book you find yourself referencing long after you've finished it. And our podcast of the week is the Mel Robbins podcast, featuring Dr. Leslie K. John, a behavioral scientist at Harvard Business School who has spent decades studying honesty, trust, and human connection. Her research, finding that 89% of people would choose to work with someone who reveals something difficult over someone who stays quiet, is striking on its own. But it's the health data that really lands. Keeping secrets lowers cognitive performance and is linked to measurable declines in physical health. The episode introduces the disclosure matrix, a decision-making tool Dr. John teaches at Harvard to help people know when to share and when to stay quiet. It's 1 hour and 5 minutes, and it's one of the more thought-provoking conversations we've recommended in a while. That's all for the 83rd edition of The Networker. The thread this week is about visibility and trust and how the two are more connected than most people realize. Being known isn't about broadcasting. It's about showing up with enough consistency and enough genuine interest in others that trust builds over time. LinkedIn done right. Roles defined clearly. Networking oriented around giving. Conversations that go somewhere real because someone said something true. None of it is complicated. All of it requires intention. Until next time, stay connected, stay deliberate, and remember, your network isn't defined by how many people you reach. It's defined by how intentionally you build. And don't forget, the full edition of The Networker is waiting for you in your inbox. I'll see you next time.